Hi there. This is my initial reaction to House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 2, Queen's Landing. I keep these focused on a checklist of the top 7 most notable points about an episode, good or bad, and then I'll spin off most of these points into full standalone videos in the coming days. This is the quick overview. So, diving in, point 1 of 7. This is the Season 2 finale. And it really should have been 2 episodes, even then. That we already covered last week how the first 2 episodes of Season 3 as aired are really the final 2 episodes of the originally planned 10-episode Season 2. The scripts were finished when Season 2 was filming. It was all delayed by the writer's strike and the last-minute studio cuts. That made the pacing a little off here and there last episode when switching from one storyline to the next. But last episode never felt rushed like parts of this episode did. What I realized is that in addition to being the Season 2 finale, this episode on its own was already trying to basically cram 2 episodes worth of plot into one episode. And I have to say, it very nearly succeeds, like 90%. The first half is great. If you were to cut it into 2 halves, the first half is an episode unto itself. But there were issues with anything related to the fall of King's Landing felt a little rushed. Not huge structural errors, let me make that clear, but speeding through everything so quickly, it would have benefited from more time to establish what's happening, to let each beat of the fall of King's Landing breathe. In some cases, a few writing fixes or an extra couple of lines here and there would have gone a long way, is what I'm saying. Such as with the Gold Cloaks or, Otto Hightower. They needed a few more scenes with him. I'm willing to give a grace period of sorts for the first 2 episodes this season, because I am well aware that they were pushed back from Season 2 and had all sorts of behind-the-scenes problems as a result. But those problems were felt much more this episode than last episode. Still, I am willing to restart with a clean slate with Episode 3. Emphasize that, make it very clear. Episode 3 onward, that's the real intended premiere, the grace period is over, and I am judging it evenly then. I'm not giving any of these, there were contributing factors stuff. And we'll move ahead. And that comes up again in a couple of these points. The first 3 out of 7 points are the negative ones, and the last 4 are all the positive ones. Moving on from that, related to it, point 2 of 7. Ironrod assaulting Alicent. Not just strangling her, but assaulting her. For all of 2 seconds. It's one shot. Pulling her skirt up. I'm going to make a full standalone video on this, so I will be brief. This is the first time in the entire show that I was outright angry at the writers and felt they made a mistake I cannot defend. Let that sink in. Now, it's not implausible in terms of, plot mechanics being ridiculous that on realizing he's been betrayed to his death, would Ironrod try to strangle her in a rage? Probably, yeah, that's not implausible. And on top of that, would he, realizing I'm going to be dead in 2 hours, would he try to make her suffer as much as possible? Not out of, lust, but just, I'm going to make you suffer for this as revenge. In terms of plot mechanics, yeah, but just because you can put something into an episode doesn't mean you should. But it's more than that. It's more than just a choice of that. As I've seen other reviews saying, it feels bizarrely out of place. This brief 2-second shot in the middle of the strangling, never commented on again. It seems disjointed from even the rest of Alicent's parts of the episode, so I am starting to suspect it's a relic shot from an abandoned idea. Like, we know they crammed a lot into this episode, so, deleted scenes, I wouldn't be surprised, given how much they crammed into it. If it's a relic of an abandoned idea that they wanted to set up better, that would be an explanation, but I cannot say it would be an excuse. I'm really upset about this, and the writers really need to address it in post-episode interviews. Point 3 of 7. This I'm much more forgiving on. Condensing the Riverlands battles to off-screen events. The Battle of Red Fork and the Battle by the Lakeshore are off-screen events in the TV show. To their credit, they do bother to take the time to specify what happened in dialogue. That surprisingly, they made it a point to say the Battle of the Red Fork and Battle of Lakeshore are two separate events. Like, going into this, we kept thinking, they're going to merge them, and they're going to be merged, and they're going to be off-screen events. I really never thought they'd do this. Or they're off-screen, but they do treat them as two separate things. That, no, Jason Lannister doesn't die at the Fishfeed, he does die in an earlier battle. And they condense things around, they have the Winter Wolves do it instead of Paid of Longleaf and stuff. This is them paying attention. That the fact that they treated them as two separate things means this is purely a budget issue that you can tell they didn't have the budget and time to film these, or even one of them, but taking precious dialogue time to specify these were two separate battles. I am forgiving of that. I am grudgingly willing to acknowledge this unprecedented budget crisis with the studio that was beyond their control. I'm a lot more forgiving on issues stemming from budget cuts. And my suspicion is that Lakeshore was originally going to be the big Season 3 premiere, but when Gullet got pushed to the beginning of Season 3, they couldn't do both, and I'm forgiving of that. I know, you can tell they were setting up all the characters that were going to be in it, and even the army movements they were explaining pretty well, so let's sort this under problems that piled up from Season 2's ending being cut off. Again, I am declaring an amnesty, a grace period of I'm judging them moving forward. I mean, we know from trailers that apparently everything they were going to do with these Riverlands Winterwolves characters, they're going to focus on actually showing the Butcher's Ball battle in Episode 6. That we can tell from the trailers we do see them in action scenes. Apparently it's all Episode 6. Maybe that'll make up for this a little. But okay, fresh start with Episode 3 after this. The rest of these are positive, though. Point 4 of 7. Rhaenyra's reaction to Jace's death. Wow, was this good acting. And it was a gut punch the way they chose to play it, with Rhaenyra yelling at him as if he's just badly wounded, not dead, and cycling through denial and the bargaining stages of grief. This was, according to the behind-the-scenes interviews, this was the scene Emma was worrying about since joining Season 1 of this show, where they explained this is a pivotal moment for this character. Ryan Condal himself, in the podcast for this episode, he stressed what apparently he's been stressing to Emma for years. This is a big thing with the writers' room, with the actors, that there are two chapters to adult Rhaenyra's life, as seen in this show. Everything before Jace dies, and everything after. And it says that in the book, too. In the book it says the death of one son, Luke, shattered her with grief, but the death of a second one, her eldest son and heir, Jace, after Jace died, it's like something snapped in her. Something hardened in her. And instead of, just being non-functional with grief, she became steely and resolved and ruthless. She really wasn't the same person anymore. This character transformation through the nihilism of grief is the phrase Emma used repeatedly. That after all that indecision, now Rhaenyra has the freedom to act because of the nihilism of grief. And it's nice that so many now are saying this scene guarantees Emma an Emmy nomination. I think it's more for what you do throughout the course of a season. We heard Episode 3 is really good with a lot of nuanced stuff in it. I don't like focusing on one huge, big acting scene, though it was really good. And I'm happy so many, though, why am I complaining? It's so many are now really praising, my God, Emma needs an Emmy nomination. It's just funny to me how so many of those saying this are the same ones who declared the show dead after season 2. Just the fickleness of that. Point 5 of 7. Aegon and Larys were even better than last episode. It was already great last episode. I was already praising it. Now it is an outright highlight of the show that I would even mention alongside all these other scenes, despite being relatively brief. And what I'm talking about is just in terms of the pacing, the pacing, acting, dialogue, in this case, even action, that there were beats to it, that I'm talking about the quality of what they were setting out to do, that how I can say, oh, this is as good as a big battle scene. Well, in terms of the acting, and I'm talking about the cinematography, the editing, the pacing, that kind of thing. Just the wry black humor of Larys seeing a man get shot with an arrow and deadpanning, I'm mistaken, I am surprised. That this scene was a true highlight, that I still felt Aegon's storyline, Aegon isn't sidelined, he got stuff to do that was significant, even though he doesn't really do that much in the book. Well, in the book, it's a mystery what happened to him, that he goes off screen, he comes back later, it quickly retroactively says what happened. So a lot of this is all invented dialogue, like I said last episode, and it's really good. Though it's broadly what happened in the book, just off the page, but this is a highlight now. It's a bit of an expansion from the book that Triarchy soldiers are shipwrecking all over Blackwater Bay, but it makes sense that they would. Yeah, after such a big battle, they said, well, there's enemy soldiers shipwrecking everywhere and causing mayhem. So that's fine, actually. It's interesting. I like that Aegon is on an arc getting a little more active. That you show that after being burned and crippled, that the significance of that he actually manages to kill an enemy soldier by shivving him with a broken arrow he pocketed, that he's starting to reclaim his agency. That's actually something Tom Glencarny ad-libbed, that in the script it's just he was supposed to stab him once and die, but he came up with, no, he's so frustrated at everything he's lost, he's lost so much, he's lost his son, he's been crippled, he's in exile from his throne, that all of that, he said no, he'd vent his frustration, and in the process he's starting to regain some of his mojo, some of his agency, that no, he'd, in a frenzy, stab him repeatedly, it makes him feel powerful again, and getting on his feet again. And so Tom is putting a lot of thought into this. It's great. The writers and directors are letting him, and they're working with him. All around, this is a great subplot of the different plot strands in the show. Point 6 of 7. Aemond and Alys at Harrenhal. Well, this is a twofer. It's the Aemond stuff and the Alys stuff, they're separate, but I'm counting them as one thing as they both happen to involve Harrenhal. First, Alys's earlier conversations at the start of the episode with Daemon. I like that they're starting to allude to how unnaturally old she is. That they did a little, if you were paying attention, when Larys was talking about his backstory in episode 6 of last season, and Gail Rankin has said we're going to learn more about her in the back half of the season, but they're starting to set up that all the years I've been here at Harrenhal, is the way she phrases it. Also, I got to remark on that great CGI shot while she's talking to Daemon, that great shot showing off of Caraxes doing everyday things like drinking water out of a stream. CGI's come a long way in this. It makes them feel more like real animals. Well, the real focus of point 6 is later on at Harrenhal, the great action scene with Aemond single-handedly taking the castle from it. There's a skeleton force token garrison there. Great dragon action, people ask about that, CGI of Vhagar's attack, great stunt work with Aemond carving through the survivors. And one final deadpan snark from Simon, unsheath your sword, draw your sword. I have no sword, then get one. All the way to the end, that Simon Strong is a minor character in the book. They cast Simon Russell Beale, this legendary Shakespearean actor, one of the top 5 living stage actors in Britain, like alongside Ian McKellen, and he's very influential with all of his work. And just I'm sad to see him go, but he really did a lot with this. It's a treasure to have him here. But the best part to me, and this is really the thing that's point 6, is the physical acting on the part of Ewan Mitchell. Not just the stunt work of the fight scenes, but that whole bit after realizing that first he ignores his injury, that he's been stabbed near the kidney or something in the back. But after he realizes, wait, I've been badly injured, and then he crawls collapsing towards Alys, it reminded me of the inhuman determination in slasher movie villains. Which is no accident that Ewan said he based his physicality on Michael Myers from the Halloween movies. How he has this deliberate, slow but relentless walk. That I don't need to hurry, but I never get stopped. That I am this unstoppable force of nature like a slasher movie villain. So that's what it felt like just watching this, that it was Aemond through sheer willpower, ignoring that he was in pain, but unable to ignore that, this is causing physical damage to your body as a mechanism, that he's getting massive blood loss, that it wasn't just one staggering crawl. This could have been relatively simple. Instead, that he collapses multiple times, lurches himself to his feet. This was great physical acting from Mitchell. That it really reminded me of like when the Terminator robot is dragging itself, or Michael Myers is dragging himself after taking a shotgun blast or something. And that he looks like he's pushing forward like a puppet with its strings cut. That when something is reacting to physical damage but not pain, it moves differently. Great acting there. And finally, point 7 of 7. I'm saving the best for last. Great family drama stuff with the Velaryons on the beach. 4 of them at once. That this is reconnecting Team Velaryon, and you can tell they're all together because this should have been the finale, just as a send-off to the season, but I left this for last, both because it's the best, and because what more can I say? That it was a really good scene, and capped off their character arcs. Just Baela meeting them, and talking about, oh, this was like growing up, and Corlys saying he can't give Alan Hightide anymore, but all he has left now, he gives him fully, his name. Well, that's worth more to me than a mountain of gold. Just great stuff, great writing, great acting, great character drama. The bigger thing is, if you remember from when I was posting videos right before the premiere, I have had an official checklist for over a year at this point of things they need to fix in Season 3, where I was trying to measurably quantify, okay, what are the things they need to fix that we can then declare, okay, it's back on track to where Season 1 was or something. Point 1 was actually show big battles. Obviously they have. It's the ending got cut off, guys. I think we all accept that was fixed. But a second point was Corlys didn't get enough to do. I wouldn't say he was outright underused, but Corlys felt like he needed to do more in Season 2. And now he has. That retroactively, even like Preston Jacobs openly said this, retroactively, this moment would not have been worth it if they hadn't spent so much of Season 2 slowly setting up Alyn and Corlys' relationship. That when people were complaining about those at the time, it was supposed to climax at the end of the season with this scene, which then got pushed into Season 3. So this was great. It paid off on all of that. I officially consider the Corlys and the Velaryons storyline on my checklist. I consider officially fixed now. That is something we can cross off. I'm surprised people still liked these 2 episodes. Well, they are big action scenes, but these were the 2 episodes that had behind-the-scenes issues from being pushed back from last season. If nothing else, pacing issues. Let's see how different things are in the real Season 3 premiere, which is Episode 3. And how different will it feel now that it doesn't have the baggage of the end of the last season being pushed into it.